when you're trying to localize a noisy bearing or something like that, use a long screwdriver. Just place it on the component and then put your ear against the screwdriver. In this case, it's the water pump, so I'm just resting on the water pump here. And I'm going to put my ear against here. Maybe rest the phone against it. I'm not sure if that translated into it or nicely, but anyways, it needs a water pump. And then, like I said, and make sure to check all the other ones too. AC compressor, that one's good. Power steering is good. Sometimes these pulleys, there's a it's a two-piece pulley with the bigger one riding on the clutch. I don't know why my light went off, but sometimes it's a pulley that makes noise, not the pump. I wasn't going to film it, but I changed my mind. People could still benefit relatively. So all I did was disconnect the alternator cable here and at the starter. Somebody ran a secondary cable from here to here. I don't want to disconnect the battery to not lose radio information, etc. So disconnecting it here and here removes power from the alternator. Now I can move the alternator aside, and I still have the nut loose here, so I can actually take the alternator right out, leave the wiring just hanging here, and a little 8mm there. The water pump is noisy on this vehicle, or on this engine. In order to replace the water pump, you have to move the alternator and the air conditioning compressor. Move what you have to move, or remove what you have to remove in order to remove what you want to remove. Quite simple. There's a 13mm here that I already loosened. There's a 17 back here, which is this pivot arm. Nice. My new gear wrench, Canadian Tire Maximum. It's an offset here and a reversible ratcheting box end wrench. It's actually quite nice, but as you can see, you can't really get at anything. That bolt doesn't even look like it's tight. That's two separate bolts. It's also 17. Engine's nice and hot still. That should be, it looks like a 13 on that side. Maybe a 15 here. That should wiggle out. Now I can get it to 17. It's still hot. It's a shorter snap-on ratcheting wrench. Hot. Okay, alternator is out. Air conditioning compressor, you just got to loosen those bolts, or I should say remove the bolts. That one, and that one. Then we can move the AC compressor aside. Snake a 17 in behind with the universal. There's a guy in Germany, I think it's Boba Motorsports or something like that, has a 16 valve engine like this, puts out over 1200 horsepower. It's crazy stuff.
Well, we both just staring at the 64.
Might be a nut on this side. Yep. And one more bolt, and that compressor is free. Those brackets are held on by 2 bolts. You might want to remove those as well. You'll see better on your car. That's one. Second one is loose. First one. Just try to keep track of all the bolts and nuts. So there's the pivoting bracket. One more bolt here. Need a skinny 13 to get at that one. Once it's loose, you can turn it by hand. And also wiggle the compressor to get a bit of free play. It takes the load off of the bolt. I should have actually taken the AC belt off, or the pulleys underneath, but I'll lift it in a minute. My hand's cramping up. That's what she said. Okay, so that bolt is out. I'm going to disconnect the AC clutch connector. Now we're going to go underneath, take this belt off, and then we can move the AC compressor. You don't have to take the wheel off, but it gives you more room. So the power steering belt, there's an adjustment here. Actually, the adjustment bolt is missing. No big deal. I usually take all these bolts off so that all the pulleys come off. And that's turning. It shouldn't. Just grab another 8x125 thread bolt and just tap that in there. You want to take that right out because you want to hang the power steering. Hang it out of the way. It's going to come out in a second. Should all be 13. And then one more up here and in here. You can sort of see that right there. It just needs to loosen. You just need to loosen this one. Needs to loosen this one. You can see it moving now. Two 13s. Okay, there's a pivot bolt here, nut and bolt. And just try to hold it on one end while turning it at the other. It's putting up a fight here. And then you should be able to push that bolt through, pull it out on this side. Coolant hose is in the way here, but I should be able to push it down. so the pump can hang like this. That should be fine. We're getting close. There's the water pump, there's the thermostat. That belt might come off already. If not, I'm going to take the pulley off. That's going to spin on me. Let's just start flaking off. Yeah, pulley should just pop off. If they don't, use a pry bar. Oh, it's moving. Yeah, back up top, and then we can start draining this thing. And also have a look at the timing belt here. Better view from the top with the top cover off. It's not too bad looking. Alternator belt. So in order to change the alternator belt, you have to remove the power steering belt and the AC belt. So you might as well change all three. Okay, so the AC compressor just sits to the side like this. Now we can get at the mounting bolts for this bracket, remove that bracket, and we're almost ready to pull the pump. A lot of people forget to put this stud back in when they do a water pump because they put the bracket on and forget to put this guy in, so keep this guy in mind. It basically holds the lower timing belt cover up against the water pump. There she is. Those 4 nuts for this bracket. Drip tray. 4 studs here, and then the water pump is loose. This is that little retaining stud that I was talking about. Don't forget to put that back in. 3 hose clamps, and we're almost ready to take her out. Just got to reposition the hoses clamp a little bit so I can get a better bite on it. Just a little bit of lube to make things slide a little better. Yeah, amazing how that works. Different hose clamp pliers. So lower radiator hose should just come off. Careful how you pry on it. Don't want to cut it. The other two hoses don't move much, but they will once those water pump bolts are loose. These are 17. Sometimes they break off, and you have to drill the stud out of the block. A bit easier with an extension on here. Coming out pretty tight. It's not what I like to see or feel. That's exactly why. See how much broke off. Hopefully there's enough bolt showing that I can maybe put a bolt extractor on it. See, there's Loctite on these. So now you can work those hoses off. Just carefully push on them while pulling on the pump. Come on. Nice and hot still. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. There's the broken stud here, so I just got to take this guy out. Assembling or installation is in reverse of removal. That's just a PCB hose that goes up here. Okay, fun fact. Or have fun, I should say. Always check the radiator cap for correct positioning or seating of the O-ring. You can see that O-ring is not sitting correctly. Either it got pushed up during the overheating incident, or it just got pushed up because, you know, when putting the cap on. In any case, it's not sealing, so reposition it. If the O-ring doesn't seat correctly afterwards, and if it's stretched, replace the cap. So I got the stud out. I used a couple of different methods. I initially welded a nut arc welded a nut to the stud and tried to break it loose. That didn't work. And then I used the acetylene torch and I heated up the block. And then I worked the stud back and forth, and that seemed to do the trick. So I lucked out on this one. If you were able to remove everything even after watching this video, and you're looking for installation instructions, and I quote, "Installation is in reverse of removal. It really is as simple as that. Sorted."